Well, thank you all for joining us, audience and stage. The last time I had the great fortune to moderate on this stage, it was with the president of Finland. So I think trading one president for two ambassadors, a state secretary and a governor, is a pretty good trade. Yeah. The state of Washington is leading in many respects, but we do it together in close partnership with like-minded countries and societies around the world. So it's exciting to explore those themes together, and especially to be joined by Governor Inslee, who in 2001 was the congressman that I interned for in Washington, D.C. So all the good things I've done, I give credit to my mother, and all the bad things, it's because he didn't teach me better in my internship. So. Governor Inslee, I want to start with you. Washington is an innovation leader. I think it's also worthy to think about what are some of our competitive strengths. So what would you say sets the state of Washington apart as a place to do business and to innovate?
Good state legislators. That's the secret, no question about that. Well, actually, I do think there's some truth to this, because I think our policies we've adopted as state have been very fruitful in helping the innovation economy. And if I just list kind of some of them. First, we have super support for innovative education and the workforce, and developing a workforce that can provide the skilled workforce for advanced manufacturing and for research both. We have one of the best, a thing we call the Career Connect Learning Program, which can make sure that if you have an advanced manufacturing company, we're going to train the employees you need to do that advanced manufacturing. And we have sort of a boutique approach so that we can really answer the needs of an advanced manufacturing firm. And we do that on a weekly basis as companies come into the state of Washington. Obviously, we have a super research-oriented college system with our two research institutions. We now have a Clean Energy Institute, both at the University of Washington and Washington State University. And a woman named Ingrid for Denmark, who has helped us for years. I don't know if she's here tonight or not. She's helped us develop biofuels. So we've created an infrastructure innovation with some of our policies around skills set delivery. Second, we've created a mecca for really smart people to come here who share our value system, including fighting against climate change. And when I talk to CEOs who come here and bring their companies here, they tell me that one of the reasons is they have a recruiting advantage, because they have, when you say you're going to Washington State, you're going to fight climate change, you're going to fight for clean air and clean water, and have clean air and clean water, that is a competitive recruiting advantage. And any advanced innovative company now knows it's a dogfight to get skill set for people. So they tell me that this is a real advantage for the state of Washington. Third, we really believe in supporting our industries around infrastructure. So Marko is the chair of transportation in the state Senate, and we have made some really big investments in transportation infrastructure. Now that is done in part through the Climate Commitment Act that I talked about. And it's one of the reasons we're so committed to the Climate Commitment Act, because it's created several hundreds of millions of dollars that we can put into our transportation system to keep it robust. So I think the policies we've adopted have happened, and then we've been very lucky. We've had a couple guys named Bill who grew up here with the last name Boeing and Gates, which has kind of helped too, so we've been a little fortunate. I'll mention one other thing as far as their advantage. When I talk to people in biotech or advanced retailing or aerospace, they tell me we're developing an ecosystem of trading intellectual talent across industries. And this has really created a petri dish of intellectual development in our state. So we got a lot going for us.
And to our Nordic colleagues, I think it can feel tempting from the United States to view the Nordics as one region and one ecosystem and one culture. And really, we know that there are distinct societies. And I wonder if each of you could tell us sort of what sets your country apart. State Secretary, let's begin with you. What sets Sweden apart as an innovation leader?
Thank you, and that's a good question. And we all have good ecosystems, and I think it's important that we work together, but also cooperate within the countries. one of the key things that I think is important and that it's a key success factor in Sweden is the collaborative ecosystem, the cooperation we have between the universities, the research institute, companies and authorities that share knowledge and also facilitate that we can commercialize the ideas. I also think that the important with the test beds and the incubators that are fairly strong in Sweden. And we also, as I mentioned when I talked earlier, we also invest quite a large portion of our GDP in research and development, and I think that really plays is a success factor. Also, that we have a good ecosystem for the startup. Also become role models for other startups. You can kind of see one company, you can want to start your own idea. Also gives fairly good financing for Swedish startups, which makes it a lot easier. And also the unicorns that we have seen coming out of Sweden, example, Spotify, Klarna, and Truecaller, they also create the ecosystem. They inspire, they pave the path for new ideas and new startups. So I think that's one of part that makes Sweden's ecosystem working fairly good.
That's wonderful. Ambassador Sørensen, what would you say sets Denmark apart as an innovation leader?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back in this great state of Washington. And you know, I think there's a risk that we could sit and repeat many of the same things. But I think if I should just highlight a couple of areas where Denmark has been front runners, I think that when it comes to wind technology, this has been an issue where Denmark, since the 1970s, fostered technology front runners, both in turbine manufacturers and later on when it comes to offshore industry. And we just had a very good discussion with the governor where we also talked about some of the potential on the east and the west coast of the United States when it comes to offshore. And I certainly think that this is an area where we can give some inspiration from Denmark. I would also say when it comes to biogas, which means that very, very low, if no emission of emissions connected to biogas, we will have probably within the next 2 or 3 years will be 100% clean biogas in the Danish gas pipelines, which is quite unique. And I think Denmark will probably be the first country that will be 100% in the electricity generation in 2027 from renewables. And by that time, we'll be a very significant exporter of renewable energy to our neighbors. Of course, you know, especially in the northern part of Europe, but connected to Germany and Netherlands, it's now all one joint grid. So it no longer makes sense to talk about how much do we generate versus our neighbors, because we share especially on the electricity side. And just the last point I would highlight is our system of innovation centers globally. We have set up these, from the official side, innovation centers. We have 2 of them in the United States, where we really invest in research and academic exchanges together with the environment around which we have ecosystems. And I think that has also been beneficial when it comes to the green transition and renewables.
That's wonderful. I promised the other panelists I would be harder on Finland as a Finnish American. So, Ambassador Hautala, you're not allowed to mention the sauna as the advantage. So, other than the sauna, what sets Finland apart as an innovation leader?
Almost kind of lost the point, but basically I really love being moderated by Marko, because he's the only American with whom I have the same accent, but only when we speak Finnish. Finland, obviously, I think the reason why we became consistently an innovation leader, now we are globally number 6, is the fact that we simply didn't have natural resources. So we had to invest in our people, in human capital. We started to have really comprehensive school system. That led to a good research. So we really had to use our brains. And that started already more than 150 years ago. And since it was a small nation, we had to include everybody. We couldn't afford to leave certain groups of society outside this progress. So that's the kind of fundamental reason. Then, of course, I could add all those other aspects. You are dealing with infrastructure. We are, I think, in the global assessment, we had #1 infrastructure in Finland. So that's one thing. Then I could add many others. But I think in innovation, there is something really special in the Finnish system of producing engineers. I've been witnessing that from close by, and there's something really miraculous things happening in those circles, and I simply don't know what it is. But there's a lot of creativity, a lot of also craziness about the Finns. I just read today a story about a Finn who actually ran a marathon. I think his time was 4 hours, 53 minutes. But what's the hook here? He had a fridge on his back, like 30 kilos, like a fridge on his back. And if you want to see me, I mean, I can show you the picture. So we are like a bit of a crazy people. We have invented a lot of sports that nobody else wants to do. But that's the way of innovating, like willing to go paths that nobody else are interested in. And I guess sauna plays a role here as well. But I think it's about that. Also, I would perhaps add something that really sets us apart. It's the happiness. We've been now assessed and selected as the happiest nation on earth 7 years in a row. So obviously, I think we've been able to combine innovation capabilities plus something that we call happiness. And I think, Finns are really surprised that we continue to stay there. We've been trying to find out all the reasons, saunas, coffee. We drink more coffee than any other nation in the world. But it's not the neighborhood, or it's not the climate. And I'm not speaking about Sweden or Norway now, about the neighborhood. So I think the innovation aspects, and it's a cultural, it's about your mindset, it's about your way of life. Things that's very difficult to quantify, but something that is very real, and you know it when you see it.
I think that refrigerator was probably full of beer, too, that he was carrying, if I know the Finns. We are here talking in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. We just witnessed another letter of intent with a partner. State Secretary, what is the value of this subnational cooperation in your eyes, and why Washington State as a cooperation partner?
Well, I think we can make a lot of good businesses coming out of this, but also increase the research together, the innovation, the policy together, and I think Sweden and Washington State has a lot in common. It's the same kind of environment. It's up in the north, and we have kind of the similar opportunities and challenges. So I think we really could find something and get good businesses and also innovations together out of it.
And Ambassador Sørensen, you serve in Washington, D.C., but you're here in the state of Washington. As you think about the relationship with our federal government and then with the states, do you see opportunities for this state-level cooperation, and why are you here in Washington? What brings you
I do, and obviously Denmark is a small country. We're close to 6 million people, so we cannot be all over the United States. That's obvious. But we try to select some areas where, and some cities and states where we think we have something in common and something we share, and where there's a match. And one of the things you asked before, what sets us apart, I think this whole thing about thinking in circular system, energy symbiosis, where energy is actually used from one facility to the next, and you don't have a lot of waste in your energy consumption. This is a state where you have legislators that have been looking into this and have a program and projects that want to move ahead. And we have specific industrial parks that are run in exactly this matter. So here I think we have a very nice match. I understand that the state of Washington is the only state in the US that is actually looking into this with funding and mechanisms. So I think we have something to work on here together.
And Ambassador Hautala, you have also served in Moscow. You're fluent in Ukrainian. In this sort of moment of geopolitics, what does this sort of cooperation between Finland and states in the United States mean in light of the security situation we see?
Well, first of all, the reason why actually Washington State was the first state that I did visit after having started as ambassador here. And the reason why we selected Washington State was quite simple. It's the people with same kind of values as we have, same kind of goals that they have and share with us, and same kind of policies. I think Governor Inslee just explained those policies. We're also really ambitious in climate policies. We aim to be carbon neutral by 2035. So plus this state has a great innovative tech-heavy economy. So that was a natural match for us. So that was the reason for this election. Secondly, what I do want to reach with this, it's very simple. I would like to bring the ecosystems in research, in technology, and also in solving some policy-related problems like together. I want to bring these ecosystems and people together, and I believe, and we already see it, this will bring the practical results. For us, our trade relations with basically, we lost almost all the trade we had with the Russians. It's now, by all practical means, zero. We've been really lucky in the sense that we've been able to expand our trade with the US. Now, US has been 2 years consistently our biggest trading partner. So I've been really, and of course, this kind of state-level cooperation is part of setting the stage, creating those connections for this kind of a sustainable growth. And like Jesper said, we had to be selective because we can't, as a small nation, we can't be everywhere. We need to be where it matters the most.
And Governor, you've signed a number of memorandums of understanding of letters with a variety of different jurisdictions. As you look across all that cooperation, what's the value proposition for Washingtonians as you're out talking and they say, why Sweden, why Finland, why are you out there? What do you tell them about the value for them?
So I'll answer that. Before I do, though, I want to thank these countries for standing with the people of Ukraine and now the United States. Thank you very much. Thank you. So these agreements are principally a statement of intent to let all organizations know that our state will support them in their efforts. Educational institutions, make sure our universities can collaborate on research, make sure that we are all committed to skills development to serve those companies when they come here, make sure that our policies can maximize what those foreign companies can exercise when they come here. And in the real term, we just talked about an offshore wind company in Denmark. And obviously we've benefited by Vestas. I went to Denmark and saw our first offshore wind turbines in Copenhagen Harbor. By the way, I got to apologize for the US Congress just for a moment too, because and there's a lot to apologize for, I realize that, but when we were in Copenhagen Harbor, we got a briefing, the US House of Representatives Natural Resources Committee I served on, and we had a briefing from the Vestas company. And you know, there's those beautiful, it's a semicircle out in the harbor, and they're very elegant looking, and we were watching, we got a briefing from a guy from Vestas, and he stopped the briefing, and he said, are there any questions? And the committee chairman of the U.S. House Natural Resources Committee asked the Vestas director, he says, well now, I suppose when the wind doesn't blow, you have batteries out there to make the blades go around, right? Is that how it worked? And the guy from Vestas started laughing, and then he understood that the committee chairman, in fact, was serious in his inquiry. Just imagine what party he was in. I'll just ask you. Anyways, we're with you.
You've also talked a little bit about our Climate Commitment Act, and there are some in our state that would like to see us move backwards on that policy. I wonder if you just take a minute to talk about what you see as the future of the Climate Commitment Act and its importance here.
I can't overstate how vitally important this particular act is to the people of the state of Washington. We have some very strong beliefs in the state of Washington. Number one, we believe in our kids, and we believe our kids should have air to breathe. And right now, they don't have clean air to breathe, in part because of the forest fires that are accelerated by climate change. I'll just give you a small example of what this bill can do. Our kids right now are having trouble breathing in our classrooms because of forest fire smoke. This bill has money so we can help schools get air filtration systems and HVAC systems. I was just in Mountain View Elementary School in Kingston 2 days ago, and they got a new HVAC system. This helps kids breathe. Now, who the heck would want to make it more difficult for our kids to breathe in the state of Washington? This bill is a way to finance that type of improvement. Second, it's a way to do our part with the Nordic countries in fighting climate change. We all know we're up against it. We have to take action. And this is taking action because the Climate Commitment Act, and you haven't heard this if you read the newspapers yet. I don't know why they won't report this. This bill puts a limit on the amount of pollution in our state, an absolute binding limit. It says you can't have more pollution than this amount. So it's a very strong measure against pollution. Third, it helps business growth. And as I indicated, we're having enormous expansion in job growth associated with these clean energy companies, from Wallula at Rock Wool to 12 in Moses Lake, to First Mode in Seattle, to Corbis, the first marine battery manufacturer in the Western Hemisphere. These are jobs being created by this that would go away. And fourth, it provides infrastructure. Look, we have a transportation, people know we have a little traffic problem on occasion. If this bill goes away, we lose several $billion of transportation infrastructure that disappears. So in so multiple ways, this is a very Washington approach, and it's working. The market for it has stabilized, and people across the state of Washington, from hospice folks to students to entrepreneurs, are benefiting by it. And also, I may add, there is an international and international component of this, because it would be a terribly damaging thing for the future of our global efforts to fight climate change if Washington abandoned this effort. Look, we're leaders. We are the leading state in the United States having the most aggressive policies against climate change. We are the leading state in helping our lower income people get access to these technologies. We are a leading state in job creation. Why would we abandon this position to absolutely go backwards? I know something about Washington. We do not go backwards in the state of Washington. So thanks for your question, Marko.
The Finnish marathon runner has arrived, and there's beer, as I understand it, out in the reception. Can we get a final round of applause for a governor, a state secretary, and 2 ambassadors here?
Tack.